The art of the Mass Effect universe shows art from all stages of development, from rough sketches all the way to the final in game CGI, and it has lots of developer commentary. Overall, it's an average video game art book. This review will cover the quality of the physical book itself, the content of the book, the aesthetics, and the nostalgia evoked by the book. I'll also talk about how it provides insight into the development of the games. Let's start with the quality of the physical book. The pages are 9 inches by 12 inches, has around 180 pages with art on them. The quality of the covers, pages, and images are about average, so overall the quality of the physical book is about average. Alright, what about the content of the book? Let's start with how much variety there is in the images. There's early development sketches, some parts that show how sketches were created, finalized concept art, and what appear to be in game images. Each game has art for characters, locations, and some other art assets like ships and guns. I think the organization makes sense, and the bottom of each page labels where you're at, which is nice. Is there any writing or insight from the artists and developers themselves? Yeah, it's unclear which developer is writing which caption, but apparently they're all written by the art director and executive producer. A lot of the captions add insight into the art design. For example, here's a bunch of sketches for the Shadow Broker, and they write that they wanted it to be something inhuman and alien that would be a new and frightening challenge for Shepard. You can look through the sketches, and because of the developer commentary, you can better understand why they picked the image that they did. A lot of the commentary is like this, and it's like having a tour guide with you as you look through the book. Since they're describing the design decisions they made, I found it pretty engaging. Does this book have what you want it to have? Well, I wanted to see how they came up with so many distinct alien species, and this book addresses that, which is great. There's also a fair amount of focus on individual character designs. In general, I think this is good, since the characters are a major part of the gameplay experience. I really like that there's a lot of commentary from the developers about all sorts of stuff, including little bits of trivia. For example, Shepard's armor was originally going to be red and white, but they thought he looked too much like a medic. Another little piece of trivia is that an unused version of the Citadel was repurposed, and it was used for the final design for the mass relays. As far as what I would want to have in this book, while it's nice to have all three games in the same book, there just isn't enough content overall for such a huge series. On average, there's only about 60 pages per game, and the games are humongous. Well, even though the book lacks in quantity, I think the quality of what's in the book is pretty good. On to the aesthetics. They're pretty good. There's nothing visually offensive. It is yet another video game art book that would have benefited from a wide format, as many images are wide set. It does have a lot of full page artwork. One thing that isn't ideal is that the cover feels a bit plasticky, and thus it feels a little bit less fancy than the average art book. How about the nostalgia factor? Well, in general, seeing the images bring back some nostalgia, but the glimpses are so brief that there isn't enough room for nostalgia to really settle in. I mean, there might be just one page for a whole planet. I will say that seeing all the alien species getting developed gave me a nostalgic feeling, as well as seeing the main characters. Overall, I wouldn't say the book really reminded me that much of the experience of playing the games, nor did it cause me to want to replay them. It just focuses on some specific things. It was more interesting than nostalgic. The book offers a lot of insight into the game and art design. Here's some examples. They write about the challenge of designing things like a suit that's recognizable as a formal suit, but doesn't conform to any particular era of Earth. The intro mentions that the series has over 10,000 concept sketches, including over 200 just for Shepard's helmet. I guess they were really trying to get it just right at the start. I think that also shows they could have made a bigger book, by the way. I personally find it amazing that they could invent new species and then give them easily recognizable facial expressions. Man, there's some really talented and creative people in the gaming industry. I found it interesting how gameplay designers can impact the art direction. For example, here they talk about how they planned for the elusive man to transform into a monstrosity for a battle. But they scrapped this idea when they decided they wanted the player to have the satisfaction of fighting something they've been familiar with, rather than just some random monster. More than once, the developers mentioned that technological and animation restraints impacted how they designed things, including species like the Krogan. Apparently, certain things just couldn't be animated properly, and I'm assuming that's why so many characters are wearing armor that's rigid. Well, overall, I think this book doesn't quite do the Mass Effect series justice. But there is still a lot here to like. Different people want different things in video game art books, but I hope this review has been helpful in showing you what you can expect from this book. As always, if you have any complaints about this video, please feel free to contact my customer support center.